More serious questions tonight about the legality of the NYPD's so-called stop and frisk policy. This time it's from a law professor at Columbia University who says his analysis is that the much ballyhooed crime-fighting tool is based on race, not crime. This is an Eyewitness News exclusive. Investigative reporter Jim Hoffer in the newsroom with the story. Jim?
Bill, it's a rather damning report that challenges the NYPD's claims that stopping and frisking hundreds of thousands of people every year is constitutional. The findings conclude the practice is actually targeting blacks and Latinos and yields few results. To the NYPD, its stop and frisk practice is one of its greatest crime-fighting tools. To many of those stopped, it seems like racial profiling. Now a new report by a Columbia University law professor finds race may drive the policy. Professor Jeffrey Fagan analyzed 2.7 million stops made during a 6-year period and found police often used race in lieu of reasonable suspicion to make the stops. 7% of the time, data, he says, show police had no legal justification for the stops. 24% of the time, the stops lacked enough details to assess whether they were constitutional.
That's a huge problem. I mean, that means that hundreds of thousands of people are having their rights violated.
The Center for Constitutional Rights commissioned the study, which also found that 50% of the time, people were stopped for the vague reason of furtive movements. 6% of the stops led to arrests. And most surprising, in less than 1% of the stops were any guns found.
To have a recovery rate of essentially 0.1% of the time they're actually finding an illegal gun on somebody that they stop really calls into question the effectiveness of this practice and really the purpose of it.
They have you against the wall, they pat you down.
Earlier this year, this Fordham graduate student told us how he had been stopped and frisked at least 10 times in the last 5 years.
It's a really big problem that people feel unsafe when police are around, because at any time they might get stopped, they might get frisked.
The NYPD insists stop and frisk has saved lives, and the commissioner says no highly paid expert for the Center for Constitutional Rights can diminish that.
He was also paid $375 an hour to produce this report. So this is, we haven't had a chance to look at it, but I wouldn't take the position that this is an objective document.
The report is part of an ongoing lawsuit filed by the Center for Constitutional Rights against the city. The city is expected to come out with its own report on stop and frisk and by its own highly paid expert in the coming weeks. Liz?